From the gritty streets of South Los Santos to running a multi-million-dollar agency, Franklin Clinton's story isn't just a rise, it's a redemption. Let's deep dive into the life of one of GTA's most complex characters. Today, we're taking a look at Franklin Clinton's journey, an epic tale of ambition, loyalty, and second chances. Franklin didn't just wake up one day in a Vinewood Hills mansion with millions in the bank. No, his story starts in the heart of South Los Santos, a neighborhood where dreams go to die faster than an Uber stuck in rush hour traffic. Born into poverty, Franklin faced challenges right from the start. His father was absent from his life, and his mother tragically passed away from a cocaine addiction during his childhood. Mr. Clinton stayed with his grandparents for some time, but then loss struck again as they tragically passed away. With no family to rely on, Franklin ended up in the care of Aunt Denise, a loud, opinionated woman with a flair for criticism. Life in her household wasn't easy, but when no one else was left, she took him in. Despite her constant criticism, a complex, familial bond kept them connected. Franklin had ambition. Though he started out involved in petty crimes and gang activities, he realized there was no future in it. He didn't just want to survive, he wanted to achieve something greater. And as he put it, I don't want to die over some dumb shit. But South Los Santos doesn't let go that easy. Franklin was smart, sure, but smarts don't pay the bills. So, like any good hustler, he found work, repoing cars for Simeon Yetarian, a shady dealership owner with morals as slimy as the grease in his hair. Franklin wasn't proud of the job, but it kept the lights on, barely. And then there was Lamar, Franklin's best mate, a walking contradiction of loyalty and chaos. Lamar lived for the hood life, gangs, schemes, and endless trash talk. He wasn't the devil on Franklin's shoulder, he was the guy dragging Franklin back into trouble every time Franklin tried to move forward. Whether it was roping him into some ridiculous plan or just cracking jokes, Lamar had a way of reminding him where he came from, often in the most inconvenient way possible.
You know what? You have really changed, man. You gotta relax, man. You gotta relax. You're too uptight, too high-strung. You know hypertension and high blood pressure is #1 killer of black men nowadays.
Despite it all, Franklin wasn't a quitter. He knew he wanted more out of life, even if he didn't have the tools to get there just yet. Between repo jobs and Lamar's antics, Franklin kept grinding, kept dreaming. And the question wasn't whether he'd make it out, it was how far he'd go and who he'd take with him. And just when it seemed like his world would never change, Franklin's life took a sharp turn, right into Michael DeSanta's garage. But we'll get there in a moment. Franklin Clinton had dreams, big ones. But dreams don't always mix well with loyalty, especially when your friends seem hell-bent on dragging you back into the mud.
Yeah, me, Lamar, your nephew Sacha with the Twitch. Look, man, it's been a real honor, homie. But I gotta move forward in my life. It seems like all I do is let people tell me what to do and I do it and nothing changes.
Hello, Lamar.
What's up, huh? What's up,
Take Lamar, for example, Franklin's best mate, his ride or die, the guy who could talk his way into trouble faster than you could blink. Whether it was botched gang deals, bad ideas, or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, Lamar had a knack for chaos. And who was always there to pull him out? That's right, Franklin. Now, Franklin loved Lamar like a brother, but man, sometimes it was like babysitting a grown toddler with a fascination for danger. Every time Franklin tried to climb the ladder, Lamar was at the bottom, shaking it and yelling, "Yo, F, come on back down here." And then there's Tonya, desperate, struggling Tonya. She'd call Franklin every other week, asking for help with towing jobs because her husband, JB, was too consumed by his addiction to fulfill his real responsibilities. Franklin didn't have the heart to say no. So there he was, towing cars in a beat-up truck while trying to convince himself it was just a temporary gig. These little jobs weren't just distractions, they were reminders. Every tow, every favor, every rescue mission for Lamar was like a weight on Franklin's shoulders, keeping him tethered to a life he didn't want. And if that wasn't enough, enter Stretch. Fresh out of prison, Stretch was the self-proclaimed OG, strutting back into the crew like he owned the place. Stretch sought to re-establish his dominance with the gang, often leading Franklin and Lamar into dangerous situations to serve his own agenda. Now, Frank wasn't naive. He knew Stretch was bad news.
You got some cans or some shit I don't know about?
Nah, homie. We got ourselves a drug deal.
Why do I get the feeling it's gonna be one of them deals gone wrong type situation?
Now, see, that's that negative attitude Lamar was telling me about, nigga. You ain't getting nowhere thinking like that.
The power of positive bull. You ought to be clenching your mother muscles with my aunt, nigga.
But how do you turn your back on the people you grew up with? How do you walk away from the only family you've ever known? And that's Franklin's struggle. Loyalty versus ambition. He wanted more than a life of towing cars, bailing out Lamar, or playing stretchers porn. While Franklin recognized the challenges posed by his friends' actions, his deep-seated loyalty often compelled him to assist them even at personal costs. Still, Franklin had patience, a trait that set him apart from his environment. He was willing to help, to give his friends the benefit of the doubt, but deep down he knew it couldn't last forever. Because for Franklin, staying loyal to the wrong people isn't just a dead end, it was a death sentence. And he wasn't about to let anyone, not even Lamar, take him down that road. This inner conflict defined Franklin's early journey. But everything changed when a chance encounter with Michael DeSanta opened the door to a whole new world. Franklin was smart, ambitious, even calculated at times. But let's not kid ourselves, he was no saint. And he definitely wasn't immune to the kind of bonehead moves we all make when we're young and feeling invincible. Take Tanisha, for example, Franklin's ex, and for a while, the one that got away. She was everything Franklin wanted, grounded, smart, and way out of his league. But while Tanisha had moved on, choosing stability over Franklin's uncertain grind, our guy just couldn't let go. Even after the big scores, with pockets full of cash, Franklin was still that same kid trying to win her back. And if you need proof just how immature he could be, look no further than that infamous visit.
But T, baby, I'm just trying to tell you I care about you.
You care about yourself. I need someone real in my life. We wasted years on this You're still the same. I want a family. I need some security in my life. Goodbye, Franklin.
That wasn't just a door closing, it was a brick wall slamming down, and it hit Franklin like a ton of bricks. But it wasn't just Tanisha. Franklin's early days were riddled with moments that screamed, I'm not quite there yet. He'd joke around with Lamar, tossing insults and playing the clown, even when he knew Lamar was pulling him into trouble. He'd argue with Aunt Denise over their clashing lifestyles, sometimes because she deserved it, but other times just because he couldn't resist. And then there was the money. Franklin thought that cash was the answer to all his problems. Buy a nice car, get a flashy suit, throw some bills around at the club, and suddenly everything's fixed, right? Yeah, not so much. For all his success, Franklin was still figuring out who he wanted to be. These growing pains were part of his journey. They weren't just mistakes, they were lessons. Every heartfelt conversation with Tanisha, every dumb joke with Lamar, every heated argument with Denise, all of it was shaping him into the man he'd become. It was the beginning of a transformation, one that would take him from a young hustler with a chip on his shoulder to someone capable of playing the long game. And the next big step on that journey, learning from the two most unlikely mentors imaginable, Michael DeSanta and Trevor Phillips. Frank was on the cusp of something big. He just didn't know it yet. His path crossed with Michael DeSanta during a repossession job that would change his life.
Jesus Christ, Franklin, I got so many stories I can't even keep them straight. I'm full of shit.
Yeah, but your full of shit got me a lot of paper. One score with you, I made more money than I ever did hustling.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm a great thief, but you know, it's the other shit that I ain't got figured out.
On the surface, Michael wasn't too much to look up to. A retired thief turned suburban dad, drowning in a sea of therapy sessions, family drama, and midlife crises. But under all that chaos was a master tactician, a guy who had been there, done that, and bought the t-shirt. For Franklin, Michael wasn't just a partner, but a mentor. That old thief taught Franklin how to think bigger. Planning heists wasn't about guns and muscle, it was about strategy, patience, and precision. Michael showed him how to weigh risks, plan for contingencies, and, most importantly, how to lead a team without losing control. Franklin soaked it all up like a sponge. But if Michael was the cool, collected mentor, Trevor Phillips was, well, Trevor. Imagine throwing a lit match into a barrel of gasoline on a hot day. That's Trevor in a nutshell. He was wild, unpredictable, and had his own unique moral code.
Nice, right? There you go. Ample room inside. Mr. Cheng, please, sir, if you will.
Let me out! No.
Tour will recommence shortly, gentlemen.
Through observing Trevor's actions, Franklin learned the consequences of unchecked ambition and the importance of self-control. It wasn't just about making the money. It was about knowing when to walk away, when to let cooler heads prevail, and when to avoid flying a plane into a plane, unless you really had to. And then there's Devin Weston. Devin, billionaire, big talker, and a complete snake in a suit. Weston saw Franklin, Michael, and Trevor as pawns in his grand game, implying significant rewards, but ultimately betraying them. His backstabbing after the car heist was a harsh lesson for Franklin. Devin wasn't just greedy, he was cutthroat. And for Franklin, Weston's treachery was a crash course in the dangers of blind trust. The guy could sell sand in the desert, but Franklin learned the hard way that not every deal is worth taking. It was a reminder to trust your gut and value integrity, because sometimes the shiny object in front of you is just fool's gold.
Hey, you know something? You're not like those snowbird retiree pals of yours. You are sharp, man.
Man, I'm just looking for a paycheck for my services.
No, don't worry. It'll come. That'll come. But right now, it is life lesson time, pal. You have got to wake up to what's real in this situation, bro. Take me, right? I am opportunity. I'm security. I'm fast cars, blow. They got the world on a plate. Those two clowns, oh man, they are the worst kind of disaster that can ever come down. They are a full core meltdown, and you're just standing there soaking up major radiation. You have got to take stock, man. Make that call before it's too late.
Yeah, all right, man, I will.
Before it's too late, man.
Yeah.
Through Michael, Franklin learned the art of planning and patience. From Trevor, he understood the risks of unchecked ambition. And from Weston, he realized the importance of holding on to your principles, even in a world where loyalty is a currency most people are bankrupt on. Franklin wasn't just earning money. He was learning what it meant to play the long game. And those lessons would shape the man he was becoming. Because the next chapter in Franklin's story wasn't just about wealth. It was about independence, legacy, and building something bigger than himself. But first, he had to make some serious bank. For Franklin, life had been a grind, a constant hustle to make ends meet, navigate old loyalties, and carve out a future. But all of that changed when he got his hands on the big score. The Union Depository job wasn't just a heist, it was the heist. The kind of job that could set you up for life if you played your cards right. And Franklin, alongside Michael and Trevor, had a royal flush. Pulling off a robbery of this scale wasn't just about the payout. It was about proving that Franklin had truly arrived. And what a payout it was. Franklin went from repo man to millionaire in one adrenaline-filled afternoon, with more cash than he'd ever dreamed of. But he didn't just move to some McMansion or spend all his money on lavish cars. He already had the beautiful house. And sure, he upgraded the Buffalo, splurged on an Ignis, and eventually bought a family car, but he didn't go full fitty. And then, just as he was getting used to the new norm, Tanisha called. Not to rekindle old flames, not to reconnect, but to tell him she was getting married.
Hi, Franklin. I'm calling to tell you I'm getting married.
Shit, I knew that.
I mean, like, tomorrow.
Oh, shit, okay.
You know, you will find someone, Franklin. But before that, you gotta grow up. I mean, seriously. You didn't want to hang out with Lamar because he was too crazy. But, well, do you really think you moved on from craziness?
Look, thanks for the lecture, all right? But listen, I'm happy for you, honestly. I am, man. Man, I'll see you around, all right?
It wasn't just a conversation, it was closure. The girl he'd chased for years was building a life without him, and Franklin, for the first time, didn't try and stop her. He didn't make a scene or beg her to reconsider, he just let her go. That moment marked a turning point. Franklin wasn't the same guy who'd called from the club desperate for her approval. He'd grown, he'd matured. The big scores weren't just padding his bank account, they were reshaping the way he saw the world. And although Franklin still maintained connections to the streets and the people he grew up with, his financial independence gave him the opportunity to redefine his path. No longer confined to just being a hustler or a sidekick, he began carving out his own identity. While the wealth played a role in opening doors, it was the lessons he'd learned from his journey, the struggles, the triumphs, and the relationships that truly shaped him. He'd learned to navigate betrayal, plan like a mastermind, and let go of the things and people holding him back. Franklin's rise wasn't about flexing his wealth. It was about building a foundation for something better. And while he was still figuring out exactly what better looked like, one thing was clear. The boy from South Los Santos was gone. In his place stood a man with a purpose and the means to achieve it. And as Franklin began transitioning out of the criminal life, the question became, what's next? The answer? Going legit. Well, sort of. As legit as you can go in Los Santos, and making sure that everyone in Los Santos knew his name. Franklin Clinton had spent years grinding, learning, and evolving. He'd pulled off the big scores, escaped the traps of his old life, and finally had the financial freedom to call the shots. But Franklin wasn't interested in just sitting back and counting his money. No, this guy had bigger plans. Enter the agency. Franklin's vision for the agency was simple. Take everything he'd learned from the streets, the heists, and his hard-won battles, and channel it into something real, something legit. No more repo jobs, no more pulling Lamar out of trouble, and definitely no more answering to Devin Weston types. This time, Franklin was the boss. The agency wasn't just a business, it was a statement. Franklin was a fixer to the stars, handling high-profile clients like Dr. Dre, and making connections with the kind of people who'd never have given him a second look back in the South Los Santos days. It was a full circle moment. A kid who once had to scrape and hustle now had the city's most powerful players knocking on his door. But what made the agency special wasn't just the glitz and glamour. Franklin used it as a platform to mentor the next generation, offering young hustlers such as ourselves in GTA Online a chance to climb the ladder without the risks he had to take. Sound familiar? It should. Michael DeSanta's influence is alive and well here. Just as Michael had shown Franklin the ropes, Franklin was now passing on those lessons, teaching others how to play smart, stay patient, and most importantly, not get themselves killed. And then there was Tanisha. Well, somewhere along the way, Franklin found his way back to her. Maybe it was fate, maybe it was timing, or maybe it was something else. Either way, Franklin and Tanisha rekindled their relationship, leading to marriage and starting a family, reflecting his personal growth and stability. Their marriage wasn't just a happy ending. It was a symbol of Franklin's growth. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was thriving. Gone were the days of chasing fast cash and empty dreams. Franklin had built something that not only elevated him, but gave back to his city, his people, and his family. But just because Franklin was legit now, didn't mean the story was over. No, this was just the beginning of a new era. The question now was, how far can he take it? Franklin has come a long way, but just because he's built his empire doesn't mean the story ends here. In fact, Franklin's next chapter might just be the most exciting yet. So let's start with the obvious. Family. Franklin and Tanisha are back together, and this time it's for keeps. Their reunion isn't just a romantic subplot. It's a reflection of how much Franklin has grown. But with marriage often comes, well, let's say, additions. And if we visit Franklin's house in GTA Online, we can see the kids' toys and Tanisha's ride, a family four-door. Like a nice family four-door, but a family four-door nonetheless. It's not hard to imagine Franklin juggling the demands of family with his work at the agency, all while hoping they don't turn out like Jimmy. If he's anything like the Franklin we know, he'd want to raise kids who avoid the mistakes he made, who can break the cycle without needing to learn every hard lesson firsthand. And let's be honest, Franklin with kids, it's comedy gold. One minute he's negotiating a multi-million-dollar deal with Dr. Dre, and the next, he and Lamar are trying to assemble a flat pack cot. It just writes itself. But it's not just about the kids. Franklin's legacy is already bigger than he probably realizes. With the agency, he's mentoring the next generation of hustlers, showing them how to build something real without getting chewed up by the streets. He's become the Michael DeSanta in our story, a role model, a guide, and maybe the voice of reason when chaos inevitably rears its ugly head. And let's not forget the potential for Franklin to expand his empire. The agency could grow beyond Vinewood, becoming the go-to name for high-stakes problem solving across Vice City and maybe even Liberty City. After all, if Franklin could go from the streets of South Los Santos to fixing problems for the rich and famous, who's to say he can't take it countrywide, or even global, if we revisit London down the track? Of course, there's always that wild card, Lamar, because let's face it, wherever Franklin goes, Lamar won't be far behind. Maybe Lamar becomes the chaotic uncle figure in Franklin's hypothetical family, teaching the kids all of the things that Franklin wishes they'd never learn. Even as Franklin strives for stability, Lamar's unpredictable presence ensures life is never dull. Sometimes frustrating, but always entertaining. And whatever Franklin's future holds, one thing is clear. He's built a foundation that's stronger than any skyscraper in Los Santos. Franklin isn't just a character, he's the embodiment of grit, growth, and redemption. At its heart, this story is about balance. Balancing ambition with loyalty, independence with relationships, and dreams with the harsh realities of life. Franklin's path wasn't easy, but he showed us that you don't have to let your environment define you. Franklin's loyalty defined his humanity, but his growth came from learning when to let go and when to prioritize his future. But it was his ambition, his drive to rise above his circumstances that really pushed him forward. Then there were the lessons. Michael taught him to think big and plan smart. Trevor showed him the dangers of letting chaos take the wheel. And Devin Weston, well, he was the cautionary tale, the kind of person you don't want to become. Franklin's rise is more than a rags to riches tale. It's a story of resilience, transformation, and using hard-earned success to inspire change. It's a tale of transformation, a reminder that no matter where you start, it's about where you're headed and how you choose to get there. So the next time you see Franklin cruising through Vinewood or handling business at the agency, remember this. He's not just a character in GTA. He's a symbol of what's possible when you refuse to let your past hold you back. Franklin's story proves one thing. You can rise above your past without forgetting where you came from. And if we've learned anything from Franklin's journey so far, it's this. He's just getting started.